So it's Sunday the 17th of July 2022, and next month I'll be dealing with all this stuff for 9 years. 9 years this is going on. And if you notice, the more I try and speak about this, the more they destroy my character, the more they encourage people not to listen to me, and kind of like, that's because of what I'm saying and the potential of what I'm saying, because like these people have jobs, they have pensions, and kind of like at the end of the day they corrupted many like parts of this case, and before and after, and they don't want this coming out basically. So they would rather label me as some kind of pervert or gaslight my mental health. Behind this, like socially, they made me look like a pervert, like as you understand this. But behind the scenes, what people don't know, like within the system, they gaslight me mental health to make me look like this was all in my head, and they denied all the sexual stuff and kind of said that like basically I was a fantasist. And so I think once and for all I need to like address this and speak about it, and people can make up their own mind basically. I have some notes here because there's so much stuff I kind of lose track of, being honest with you. So I'm going to read occasion of the notes, and I'll try and read slower. In 2013, I joined a psychology course in Tramore ETB. The tutor I knew him from Utelich 30 years ago. Well, I didn't really know him. He was a woodwork teacher in Utelich 30 years ago. I hadn't seen him in 30 years. And his name was Pat Carey. And as I was in the psychology course, he would mention, like in passing, he was Bahai. And I felt he was constantly mentioning he was Bahai. I didn't know what Bahai was, and neither did other students in the class, because I heard him saying it to other students when he'd be talking one-on-one, and they were the same. They didn't know what Bahai was. Anyway, I was talking to him at lunch breaks, and I was confiding that I was in a relationship and I felt trapped. This woman done so much people pleasing. She had to be the centre of attention, that like I had the kids all the time, kind of I was more or less kind of rearing the kids, like, and not that I'm boasting or not that bothered me. It's just kind of I felt that her priorities were in the wrong place. And then he was asking me about her, and I was saying she was a hairdresser out in Tramore. She had loads of clients, and kind of these people all came before her family or any of this kind of stuff, like. And I was saying that she's in a women's group in Tramore, which she was. And he's asking me where, and I told him where. And a couple of days later, his wife turned up at the women's group outside. She was outside for ages apparently, pretending to be hanging up flyers for the free kids play dates and spiritual nourishment. That's the way it was put, for the struggling relationships. So my ex put us down as a family, myself and the two kids, and that's how I got introduced to the Bahai, through the classroom, through his wife. I believe that the information I told him in the classroom, he passed it on to his wife. She turned up hanging up these flyers at the women's group supposedly, and that's how we ended up in it, basically. I'd never heard of the Bahai ever before that, like, and within 3 or 4 weeks to join the psychology course, I was a member of this Bahai. She was to join us up as a family, and I went along. She was forever threatening to take the kids back to Dublin if we ever broke up. And the quality of life the kids had in Tramore compared to the quality of life like they would have had in Ballymun, kind of like I felt kind of I wanted the kids to stay in Tramore, and to be honest with you, I was both parents to the kids for many years and had a good relationship to the kids, so I done what I had to do to keep the kids in Waterford, and being honest with you. Simple as that. 1 sec. These meetings, they took place on Clarenwood in Tramore, which is the tutor's house. On the first occasion, I didn't know his wife. I didn't know that this was his wife. So on the first occasion, I got a shock in the house when he walked in, and then it was like it was all supposed to be some kind of coincidence. But looking back on it, I know it was all set up, like, but it was supposed to be some coincidence, and like we were all introduced, and the kids would have play dates out the back. Like my ex's friend, who was also in the psychology course with me, and she was also in the women's group, she signed up as well with her two kids, and her two kids played with our two kids. So they kind of kept each other company, kind of, and they enjoyed the play day. But they would play in the garden, and we would sit around, talking about kind of different aspects of this kind of stuff. And they were constantly, I felt it was constantly kind of, they're always digging at like the Catholic kind of church, and kind of, I won't be spiritual now, and I'm not defending but like, I felt it was very one-sided, like, and I don't know, and they were saying that this was all the best part of all religions and this kind of stuff, and didn't really sit too well with me. But we were given exercise books as the time went on, These were a red and a black covers, level 1, and you go up the levels. As you complete the book, you move up onto the next level, and then the same on the next level, and this shows your commitment and how far apparently you've come. And during this, my ex, she would just the praise that would be lavished on her, it was like she was clearly being manipulated, but she couldn't see it. Like her friend could see it, I could see it. Like we would just roll our eyes. It was ridiculous. I found out afterwards she had confided issue she had with her mother to this woman who was a psychologist for Waterford Garda, and she was subcontracted by the HSC. So, like, giving a psychologist this kind of information, I felt was like it was dangerous and it was what she wanted. But she became this kind of mother figure to her almost, and it explained why she was like lavishing all this attention on her, and it was very strange indeed. 1 sec. But we ended up joining the Bahai to be meetings twice a week, and they'd be up in the tutor's house up in Claremwood and Tramore, and kind of like there'd be kind of topics, and you'd be talking about this stuff. Like I won't be the most social person, so I kind of sat and I said nothing. If I'm being honest with you, for me it was about keeping the kids in Tramore, and if I had to do that, so be it. So that's what I done. But she would lavish attention on my ex to the point, and never it was just like insane. Like it was like her friend would be looking at me, I would be looking at her. Like this was getting like, I don't know, but she couldn't see it. I give one example like of her people pleasing. Like I moved out twice before, and like on the condition that we broke up, like was that she could go around telling people that she finished the relationship. Like that's how concerned she was of how people viewed her. I didn't care because I got to get away from her. So, but like that shows you the mentality of the person like that I was trying to deal with. Like, so. Felt then her husband, then he was kind of like, I'd be into old kind of blues music and stuff, like kind of play the guitar and stuff that people wouldn't be really into. But her husband was like introducing these kind of CDs and stuff that would appeal to me. He played the guitar that appealed to me. I felt he was almost appealing to me, and his wife was appealing to my ex. And he asked me would I give guitar lessons to a friend of his, and I did. He was also a member of the Bahai. He's involved in the art studio down Lombard Street there. I had this nagging feeling we being manipulated. I would question as they pushed. This was all the good parts of other religion. Now I found this a weird statement because people that would be spiritual, like they don't pick and choose religions. They stick to one and they're kind of loyal to that religion. This kind of stuff, and I was questioning why there's no charity work. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if they're so righteous, why is there no charity work or anybody? Like, they ostracize you. They don't believe in mixing inside the group. They have their own laws. They have their own sentences. Like, there's just so much misleading stuff. Like, they believe in manipulation, that you can manipulate someone into the group, and once they're surrounded by the people in the group, it's hard for that person to say no. And this is a real big thing. Like, it's up to what you're not allowed to speak badly whatsoever about this. They come down onto like a ton of if you try and speak badly about this, like they do what the Scientologist does, is they just hound you they hound you until you have to leave, or like a lot of people commit suicide actually over kind of the harassment from these. Anyway, getting back to the story. I felt they were looking down their nose at people. There was comments made, I think, like about drug users and drinkers, and I just felt they were looking down their nose and kind of like, if these people were so righteous and stuff, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just didn't add up. And I've been honest with you, and it felt weirder and weirder. If I'm being honest, the more we went into it. I heard in the psychology course then on several occasions, I heard the tutor one-on-one, and he's speaking with students, and he would always bring the conversation would always be brought back to like, oh, I'm a Bahai and you should try it. I get so much from it, and like it was constantly like, if it was a one-on-one, he'd never bring it up in a group thing, and I noticed it was always one-on-one where he taught, like, and it was only certain people. If someone was mind strong, he wouldn't bring it up, but if they were kind of like trying to replace kind of an addiction, like, or, do you know what I mean? Like they pick their people. Like I have addiction problems, and my ex have addiction problems, so like we'd be kind of easy pickers for this kind of stuff, because people with addiction problems, they're trying to replace kind of like the time that they have in addiction, like with this kind of, and it's usually something spiritual or like exercise or something they try and like replace it with. I have to try and slow down a bit there now because I know I'm probably starting to mumble as well. Like, I'm not comfortable with this talking in front of the camera. But there was a Kids' Day Out announced in August 2014, and it was down at Kilkenny College, where you're supposed to be go down, and it's supposed to be a Kids' Day Out, Kids' Play Day. So she signed us up, and we went down there, and her friend actually went down there as well, with her 2 kids as well. But when we got down there, then I noticed there was shops and stalls set up, and like they were selling merchandise, like the Bibles of this religion and books, and there was lectures and kind of like, I just felt it was all very misleading that this wasn't the Kids' Day Out, like as they kind of said. The kids were brought off to make pizza, and when they came back, then I was asking them how was it making pizza, and they were saying that they had to repeatedly chant this prayer over and over again while they were making the pizza dough. And I wasn't happy with this. This is just basic conditioning, basically. And then we were informed then that it wasn't a day out, that it was actually a weekend. And by sleeping there in the dorms for the weekend, it shows your commitment, and it showed how far you came, apparently. Obviously, my ex wanted to do it. I didn't want to do it. The kids didn't want to do it. Her friend and her kids, there was no way they were doing it either. They started to see this for what it is. She wanted to leave. Then they informed us that they were going to lock the gates, but they weren't locking us in. But I see it as locking us in, but they were saying, oh no, we're locking thieves out, just because that's the way they look down their nose at people. That they were locking thieves out and they weren't locking us in. So that's the way it was explained to me. They were locking us in. And then, I don't know, yeah, I found this all to be very misleading, deceitful, and the way it was advertised, it was a kids' fun play day, and kind of when we got down there, then it's about trying to coax us and push us into this kind of relation and see how far we've come. My ex was being introduced as kind of the next second coming. That's the only way I can describe it, like that she had so much potential, and like she was obviously loving the adulation, and kind of, I used to just look at her friend, she was looking at me, we would roll our eyes, and it was all getting a bit crazy. I'd had enough of this, so had the kids. Like, it got to a stage it was ridiculous there now, so I said, we're not staying the weekend, I want to leave. The kids want to leave. Her friend wanted to leave as well, like, so she left and we left as well. Like, so on the way back then, I was trying to explain to her like the positive and negative reinforcement and the ostracization and all this kind of stuff. Like, and I was trying to explain to her like how she'd been manipulated, and I recommended that she should go and speak to her family about this, because they were saying that she shouldn't speak to her family about this. You can only bring people into this yoke one at a time, and you can invite them in, like, but you can sit basically in the middle of a group and have all these people kind of like talk, trying to convince you to join the yoke. So it's very hard for that person to say no. But she'd be encouraged to bring her clients into it, and do you know what I mean? 1 or 2 of them did turn up. And they turned up for one meeting and they left. It's the same with the students in my psychology class. 1 or 2 of these people did also turn up, and they like left after one meeting, like, and rightly so. They felt it weird, and it was weird. It was very strange. But obviously she was carrying everything I was saying. She was carrying back to this kind of doctor and Carly, like, who was like, she's a psychologist for Tulsa, so you could imagine, like, she was listening to everything. Like, we were given books to write, and exercise books. They were red and black folder books, and it's level 1. And as you finish this book, then you move on to level 2. As you finish this, you move on to level 3, and it shows how committed you are, and it shows how far you've come. But she holds on to the books, so I felt like she was more or less profiling each one of us, and she was getting, because there was questions in about how you feel about this, how you feel about that. So I was never really comfortable with a psychologist having your kind of inner thoughts in a book. It was all very strange anyway. And then yeah, when we came back then, I said, like, look, I had enough of this. I was doing this for over a year there now. It got to a stage, right, when I came back, that I wanted to leave. And I even left the psychology course, even though there was only 3 or 4 weeks left, because when was this? This was August 2014. So there was 3 or 4 weeks left of the psychology course. And I just couldn't be in the same classroom as this person. Like, he was just so, I felt him to be a manipulating liar. Like, I was asked then, if I just come back and just sit in the classroom, that I would get the award. And so I still refused. Like, there was no way I was going back to that classroom. It's like, my ex informed me then that she was doing this one way or another, and if I wasn't doing it, that I had to move away from Tramore and potentially move out of Waterford. Obviously, I told her where to go, if I'm being honest with you. But like, the stuff I heard of this show, like from this whole sexual shame and stuff that they do, and like the manipulation, like there was talks of like working this stuff into the infrastructure of Ireland, like through like hit the HSE, through kind of the council. They trying to, at the moment they're trying to use child. My ex is running around North Dublin, they're offering like hairdressing and counselling. Like, it's just a glorified attempt to like look for weak-minded people to get them involved in this religion. If I'm being honest with you, I predicted all of this like several years before this was ever done. So like, somehow I was able to predict the future. But this is what it is. In late 2004, sorry, one second. In late 2014, then my father was diagnosed with being sick, and I was in late 2014, my father was diagnosed as being sick, and like, I don't know, it was a tough time, being honest with you there now. But my ex was there being the doting girlfriend. Every time my family would call, she would be all over me and being the whole supportive girlfriend, and you know yourself. But as soon as they left there, then Aunt Carrie would be there, and she'd be there morning, noon, and night, and she'd be talking about this Bahai and like preaching this kind of like stuff. Now, I didn't speak to her at this time. I didn't speak to her husband. I didn't like the woman. I didn't trust the woman. I would be in one room, they'd be in another room learning this kind of Bahai. She'd come down there with books and stuff. But then they started to do this weird kind of mind games where they'd be whispering, like, override me, like seeing through the double kind of doors. And kind of, if I walked in to make a cup of tea, like, they would get up and walk into the other room. If I walked into that room, then they would get up and walk into the other room. Now, they'd be constantly mentioning my name, whispering my name and all this. It got to the point then where I started kind of having fun with the kids. I was saying to the kids, watch this. So like, I would do it and they would do it. And one of the kids started laughing and asking like, why are you doing this? Thinking it was some kind of a game. And kind of, this was the nasty behaviour that was like kind of going on kind of. And my ex was encouraging her, oh, maybe it's all in your head. You should go to the doctor and like ask for some Valium for your mental health. And like she was buying Valium, I was buying Valium by 50s and 100s, so we could buy these anytime you want. Like, so like, I certainly didn't need to go to a doctor again, if I'm being honest with you. She's not going to like me saying this, but it's the truth. Like, it was more about getting me to go to the doctor and having a record that I went up with me mental, or gaslight me mental health, concerned that I was going to start telling people, because I was starting to tell people about what was really going on in this so-called religion. Sorry, 1 sec. Then at my father's funeral there, she never brought my ex never brought the kids to my father's funeral. My father's very close to the kids, and but she brought Anne and Pat, who I didn't speak to be honest with you. I detested both these people, like, and her friend turned up at the funeral and she was shocked. She was like, they have some cheek even turning up at your father's funeral. Like, sure, but like I didn't really want to make a scene, being honest with you. Like, so it was hurtful that the kids weren't there, being honest with you. But at the funeral, I always thought I knew Anne from somewhere, but I couldn't really pinpoint from where, but I was 100% sure I knew her from somewhere. But anyway, at my father's funeral then, I seen her talking to two people. I have it wrote down here now, because like, I have to watch what I'm saying, being honest with you, so I'm going to just read it out, right? At the funeral, I seen Anne talking to two people. As I looked across the graveyard, I realised who she was. I said I thought I knew her from somewhere. It clicked there and then, my stomach turned. I'll explain who she is now and how I knew her. Several years ago, I have to choose my words carefully here so I don't reveal the other two people involved. Allegations were made against the daughter of a HSE and TUSLA employee regarding sexual misconduct regarding this daughter and a younger child. I can only say so much about this, as it would reveal I can only say so much about this as it would reveal who these people are, but I was asked to sit in on an interview as a witness, which I did. This happened on the grounds of Arkean Hospital. I was there, the alleged victim was there, a social worker called James Kennedy was there, and at the other side of the desk was a woman. Judging by her manner and her approach and the seriousness of the situation, I assumed she was a female Garda. The meeting lasted about 60 to 90 minutes out in Arkean, in the building on the left-hand side as you went the entrance. I noticed in the interview the allegations were 6 to 7 weeks earlier. I was told there was a shortage of staff in the HSC. The following day, I inquired from James Kennedy what the Garda's next approach was. I was informed she wasn't a Garda, but a psychologist employed by Waterford Tussle. So you had Waterford Tussle, you had an employee of Waterford Tussle investigating another employee of Waterford Tussle for Waterford Tussle. This explained why they were so slow. I was informed she had decided to keep this internal. She would not be involved in the Gardas against my wishes. The girl that spoke about this and what she had seen, she was deemed to be troublesome and she was moved. Waterford Tussle could only find in this manner because of the delay. The correct procedure here is emergency accommodation and contact the Gardaí. This was not followed. So this finding was the only findings that could ever be reached that sit with Tussle. The psychologist who covered all this mess up was Anne Carey, the same Anne who had recruited my family into this Bahai, so you can imagine how unethical and the numerous breaches in code of conduct and ethics here. After the funeral, the very next day, my ex announced she was going to Dublin for a chillax. These are her words exactly. We had an argument. I told her I knew who Anne was and I was going to report her and her husband as soon as my father's funeral had passed. She left and she told me to be gone out of the house by the time she came back. I was going anyway, if I'm being honest with you. I remember having to tell my family that she had important hair to do for a wedding, and this is her reason for leaving the day after my father's funeral, because it was very embarrassing, being honest with you, because I had my family ask me why she was leaving like the day after I buried my father, but this is what she done. I made an excuse to my family about her leaving, saying about the hair. I'll explain more about this woman's behaviour like further on with evidence, and I will show you the real character of this person as I go. Like, and as I make these videos there now, there's going to be a couple of them there, and I'm going to be talking about the politicians, some garros, Tussle, Solicitors. So it's going to be quite kind of, how would you say it? I'll explain why people are so keen to destroy my character and not have this information out, being honest with you. Because of like basically what they're trying to do now is they're trying to corrupt the whole system basically to protect these handful of people. And what's happening there now is the network of Sinn Féin is being used because the TD in question is a Sinn Féin TD. Now it's not, I'm not with Sinn Féin, I'm not accusing Sinn Féin, but it's this person is using the network of Sinn Féin to try and cover his own actions. And I intend to talk about all of this regardless whether it's a Sinn Féin TD, regardless whether it's corrupt garros, regardless whether it's criminals or Tussle. Like, I'm going to speak about it all. It's not going to go down too well, and you can decide for yourself whether or not I'm making this stuff up. Okay? Hopefully as time goes by, I'll be able to speak better on camera and more slowly and clearer. It's just I find all this stuff kind of like hard to speak about, being honest. There's 9 years of this, so you could imagine the amount of stuff. And a lot of the stuff then I tend to leave out or forget, and I don't want to be jumping back and forth, so I'm trying to explain it in a timeline so it makes more sense. So I joined a psychology course in 2013. I left in 2014 after that fiasco in Kilkenny College. For 2 or 3 months they tried to get me to rejoin. Basically, like, one thing I forgot to mention actually, my ex converted. This was around September 2014. She converted to this Bahai. I wouldn't convert anyway. And after she came back, then we were going to get intimate one night, and she stopped and she said that Anne had put a sex ban on us, as I wasn't a Bahai member, and if we wanted to have sex, basically, that I had to convert to this Bahai. So that basically, it was just more manipulation, basically. Like, it's unbelievable. I moved out, I think, a week later after this, basically. But she got me to move back in when my father was diagnosed sick. Then a couple of weeks later, so like she got the kids to ring me, begging me to come back. So obviously I went back because I got to spend time with the kids. So that was in 2013. I joined. I left in 2014. Buried my father in January 2015, where she was draped all over me, pretending to be the concern and girlfriend. All my family are witnesses to this. Like, and then February 2015, I had enough of this, and I went down to the courts in Waterford, and I applied for custody, guardianship, and access. I applied all paperwork because I had enough of all this stuff. Being honest with you, I'll explain what happened then in the court in my next video, and I'll try and piece it all together as I go. Some of these videos now, I know I don't speak too well on them, but I'll try and explain it as best I can. I'll try and add subtitles for my mumbling. Thanks. So as explained in the video, there's some serious issues in just this piece. The beginning of all this in 2013-14. So I'll explain from there on in other videos. But obviously, there's the conflict of interest and the kind of the breaking in the breach in the code of conduct and ethics here is enormous. There's enough for these people to be sacked, at the very least investigated. So it's all been covered up. I have some serious issues about which political party is assisting covering this up. It's not really the party, just what I believe is a certain few members. Only last night I looked at a video on YouTube of Miss Mary Lou MacDonald of Sinn Féin, and she's urging people with any kind of sexual abuse kind of stuff to come forward and report it. And I'm just wondering, like, does that extend to people that are reported that are being impeded by members of our own party? So I'd like to know, like, if that's like, does that cover all people, or is it just kind of something to say in the media? Because I would genuinely like to know, because we all know in Waterford of the handful of members of using the Sinn Féin's name that are trying to like prevent me from going forward with this. And it's about to get very messy as I upload these videos and show people what's up. So we'll take it from there, I suppose.